Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to impart techies. We believe that sharing of knowledge is the key to enhance our skills and grow us as professionals. With this principle in mind, we have initiated a series of webinars conducted by industry experts to give you all a crisp insight of various domains. The topic of today's session is Test Automation of Mobile Application using Rational Test Workbench. Our guest speaker today is Sishinos Zacharias, Architect, Quality Management Division, IBM India Software Group. Shinoj is the Architect in the Quality Management Division of IBM. He is the Technical Lead for Rational Functional Tester, Rational Test Workbench, and the Keyword Support in RFT and RTW. He speaks at many internal and external conferences and works with customer in adoption of IBM quality management tools. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Shinoj.
Thank you. Let me share my screen so that everybody sees that. Okay. Good afternoon, all of you, and welcome to this session. Today's session is on automating your mobile applications using Rational Test Workbench. I hope there could have been many other sessions earlier about developing mobile application as well as automating mobile applications. Today we'll talk about how the Rational Test Workbench can be used for automation of your mobile application. So the first 5-10 minutes, I would like to cover the complete the application lifecycle management story around mobile application that is available from Rational Software. And also an introduction about what is Rational Test Workbench before going deep into the mobile testing capabilities. If you look at the overall Rational quality management solution, so the slide whatever you're seeing is basically the solution we have around quality management. You can consider this as our ALM portfolio. In the ALM application lifecycle management, we have basically the requirement management tool that actually interacts with a quality manager. That is our test management tool. And we have the defect tracking as well as version controlling system that is provided by Rational Team Consult. And all our product is built based on a platform called JAS platform. This is a collaborative application development platform where you can integrate your products to a JAS platform. You can build your products on top of JAS platform. So whenever you start a project, you have a requirement coming from the field, and you capture all the requirements in your requirement tools. We have requirement tools that are varieties of requirement tools, but the most commonly used are some of them listed under the requirement management diagram here, RRC. And whenever you have the requirement, you can actually, once you capture the requirement, you can actually start your test planning using test management. And at the same time, you can create your task items in Rational Team Consult so that developers can deliver their changes using Team Consult. And you also have all the bidirectional links between all these work items so that there's a very good traceability between all these tools. So anybody working in one of these tools can actually see what is the other work item or the task that is in the other tools. For example, from the requirement I can see the test plans, and from the quality manager I can see the work item that is there in the Rational Team Consult. That's nothing but a version control systems or defect management system. And if you look at the bottom, all this Rational Quality Manager integrates with all other testing tools. The Quality Manager you basically use for your test plans, test cases, and test executions, and basically all the reports. All those management activities you do basically in the Rational Quality Manager, and once you have the Quality Manager, you can execute your test, whether it is a functional test or performance test or your security test, from Rational Quality Manager, from your test case, and you can get a report of the execution verdict. For example, when you run a functional tester, so it will basically execute the test. At the end of the execution, you have a report that says whether the test is being passed or failed, and you might have a lot of other assets along with your test executions. And all those assets, all those reports is being uploaded to RQM, and you can see all the results from RQM. So RQM is the central repository for managing all your test and execution results. And also it provides lab management capabilities. And RTW is another integration, because our today's talk is on RTW, and RTW we have an integration with the Rational Quality Manager. This I just showing this picture to get you the complete picture of the ALM solution and how this mobile testing that is part of Rational Test Workbench fits into this complete ALM solution. Before going deep into the mobile testing capabilities in RTW, let's see what is the Rational Test Workbench. Rational Test Workbench is basically designed for test practitioners, or you can consider as a test workbench for test practitioners. And using that test workbench, you can manage, or you can create your mobile test or your performance test, functional test, regression test. And RTW also provides you the capability for service virtualization. We'll talk about a little bit on service virtualization and integration test in the later in the session. The second point is that RTW 8.5 that is being released a few months back, or maybe in June, and that the major capability that we added is the test automation. That's the topic of our discussion today. And it also provides an integration with Selenium test. We have seen quite a lot of customers using Selenium for their web automation, and using RTW, or in RTW you can manage your Selenium test. The reason is that most of the RTW is an Eclipse application, and we have seen a lot of customers use Selenium JavaScript that is a part of that is actually integrated with Eclipse. So you don't need to have two versions of Eclipse running on your system. Rather, you use the same Eclipse that is part of RTW and manage your Selenium test. Similarly, you can there is another capability that we added. It's called compound test. So typically in your test automation, you have your test and you create a test suite, and most of the time test suite contains a similar kind of test. The compound test is nothing but a composition of different types of tests. Either can be different or it can be same also. For example, a compound test you can consider as a test suite that contains your mobile test, your if you have a Selenium test for your web automation, that contain a Selenium test. It can contain a performance test. So, and once you have the compound test that is having all these tests, you can run the compound test. When you run the compound test, it runs all these tests sequentially. We also have the keyword capabilities, and the keyword is many of the customers will be used keywords for their test modularization, and so the keywords I am talking about is the keywords that are available in Rational Quality Manager. You can create a keyword. A simple example of a keyword is that logon is a keyword that consists of 3 steps: enter username, enter password, and click on OK button. So that's a keyword which is called that's named as logon. And if you have an automated tool, you can actually automate that keyword. So whenever the keyword is encountered in your test, it will actually run the automated test. And we also when I showed the first page where we showed that a complete ALM lifecycle management all the products, and it has also have the integration with the ALM as well as the virtual service. Just a pictorial representation of all about RTW. RTW offering is nothing but a set of or packaging of all our tools together. That includes the functional testing capabilities, performance test capabilities, mobile testing, service virtualization, and rational integration tester. And when you install RTW, you get all these together. And the major feature that we added in 8.5, that is June, is nothing but testing your mobile application using Rational Mobile Client. Okay, so let's go deep into the session today. This was just a overview of what exactly is ALMs and what is RTW. Let's look at more on what is the mobile testing and how does it how does RTW help in creating your automated test. for mobile applications. So if you look at the current phase of computing, and this is some of the statistics that we get from certain surveys, and if you look at that one, you see that nearly 90% of developers are currently developing a mobile application or extending their enterprise application to the mobile, right? Mobility is the buzzword now, right? You wanted to be on the move, you wanted to have access to your applications. You might be an insurance agent, and on the field you wanted to do everything, right? Without even capturing everything in the paper and come back to the office and then feeds in data into from your desktop. That's rather you wanted to do everything on the move. And the other report is that almost 77% of developers will be focused on hybrid applications. In the mobile application development itself, there are native application, hybrid application, and web application. And the easy way to get a mobile application is to create a hybrid application. And most of the developments are happening in the hybrid application. And it is saying 25 plus almost all all expect to deploy more than 25 mobile application in the next 2 years. I would say that maybe it is more than 25 mobile applications. This is just some of the surveys and reports. When we talk about mobile applications, the quality is the most important, right? So we are in a continuous delivery mode. A requirement that is coming into the from the market, we need to deliver it as soon as possible. There's a competition, we need to beat the competition. There's a defect being reported from the field. You need to resolve the defect and deliver this the defect as soon as possible, right? So there is a challenges in continuous delivery, and one of the major challenges in the continuous delivery is that ensure that your application is being tested on time, right? And in the continuous delivery, you might have to deliver your changes within days or weeks, right? Those kind of scenarios. And this makes difficult when you have a number of mobile devices and platforms, and the OSs are changing and applications are changing, technology is changing, right? So you need to make sure that you have the correct test bed to test all your scenarios. And it is not just the front end of your application that you need to test. It is not just that UI that is appearing on the application you need to test. You need to test even the backend services. There might be certain requests going from your mobile device to a backend server, and then the server is again connecting to a data source or databases. You need to test all the things. You need to find out where exactly is the problems. When a problem comes, you need to track whether it is in the UI part, or it is in the backend, or it is in the database retrieval algorithms, all these ones. So this is an end-to-end solution, right? So if you look at this, I already talked about different interactions with the different kind of systems in a typical mobile ecosystem, right? You have the client devices, you have servers, and you have backend databases of services. And at any stage when a request goes from a mobile to your server, you need to do some kind of testing. You need to capture those requests, and so that you can run the request again and see if there is a problem. If there is any problem occurs, you need to pinpoint to the exact problem. That means you need to have a different kind of test. If you're typically testing the functionalities of an application, you might create a functional test using any of the testing tools available. The current mobile testing capability what we have is basically for the functional testing of the mobile applications. And you might also want to do some kind of service test, right? You need to also do some kind of performance test. For example, if 100,000 users are accessing that same application at the same time, is your server performing well? Is it scalable to the load? So those kind of performance and load testing you need to do. You need to find out how much time it took for each of the transactions. The other thing is, an important thing is that when you start developing your application, and let's assume there are multiple services are needed to create a complete software, complete application. And when you start the development, you may not have all the services available. Then you need to virtualize certain services. That is what the virtualization solution that we provide help you. You can start testing your application from the first iteration itself, probably in the first week of the first iteration, without even to have your services available for you. Moving to the next slide. I talked about different devices, and if you look at, that fragmentation as well as growth, you have different types of devices, different kind of mobile OS, iOS, Android, and BlackBerry, Windows Phone, a lot more, right? And these devices refreshes every, 24 months, or that may be little high, maybe every, month, all those kind of things, right? And there's a lot of new capabilities being built, and you need to test that: cameras, GPS, and orientation, voice, the locations, and everything, right? You need to make sure that you test all of them, and there are changes happening, and you need to incorporate these changes. The other challenge is that network, right? Your carriers, you might have a slow network. In that case, how does your application behave, correct? And usability, user experience is a major concern. Your application needs to be, usable in different locale. You need to have translations available. All this consideration, right? And one more thing, if you look at, is that typically, if your application is taking more than 5 seconds for a request, for example, you clicked on a link in your mobile application and it takes more than 5 seconds, it is all the chances that customer may not use it. They need the response very fast. No latency should be there. Okay, what does we provide from a mobile testing perspective from RTW or from Rational, right? We support, as of today, as I said, this is the first version of mobile testing capability that we delivered in June this year, and we started with supporting both Android and iOS. That means you can test an application that is running on Android as well as on iOS. We provide a very natural language kind of steps or tests, and that is very easy to understand. We don't just capture those UI part. We also capture those device controls interactions also. For example, some of that mobile, the back button as well as the other buttons, right, home button, is part of the device, part of the hardware itself. So if you click on that for going back to that previous page or previous screen, then you need to even record that one, right? As I said, this solution is integrated to Eclipse. Eclipse is again an open platform, and many customers develop their application using Eclipse or integrate with Eclipse, so you can actually leverage on those different capabilities that is already available in Eclipse for different kind of testing, right? And another thing is that end-to-end mobile testing. I talked about virtualization and performance testing. Let's look at what are the supported mobile operating system and its versions. We support versions, Android version 2.2 plus and iOS 6 plus. We support both native application as well as hybrid applications. When I talk about hybrid applications, we support the technologies like HTML5 and CSS3. We support jQuery mobile. Basically, we capture or record the test from the physical device or an emulator or a simulator in the case of iOS. And the test being generated is basically, we call it as clear script. It is a very natural language English-like statement, so it is very easy to understand. You don't need to be a technical tester to understand those tests. We support, and also it supports the multi-language. It is not just English. We support other languages also. That means if you are recorded on English, you can still play back on a different locale. That's exactly that multi-language support we have. I talked about keywords. We support keywords and automating keywords using RTW for mobile testing. We also, one more important integration we have is the Worklight. Worklight is another IBM solution that actually helps you in developing your mobile application. For example, with a single source code, you can actually say, create the runtime for different kind of application that will run on different OSs. So I can create an application, let's say Hello World application, and I can generate the binary code for that application that will run on different OSs, Android or iOS, Windows Phone. So that is that is done by Worklight, and Worklight is majorly used in kind of hybrid application development, and it's very easy to get your application being developed in short time. I was shown some of the snapshots in this page. That is actually the kind of mobile client that is running. I will talk about this more. Let's look at what are the major features of the mobile testing capabilities in RTW. So basically, any test, right? You need to have any test that you wanted to record against an application. You need to have a recording capabilities. That means you just bring up your application and you interact with your application. All your gestures on that application should be recorded, and that's the part called recording. At the end of the recording, what you get is nothing but a test, a script. And the script, once you have the script, you should be able to modify, because just record and playback will not sometimes help, right? You have to modify or enhance your test. And once you have enhanced and you're ready to test or execute your test, there's the RTW provides the playback component. Using that, you playback or execute your test, and it will execute the test on the application that you recorded. And at the end of the execution, you need to get a report that will show you the overall verdict, as well as every step, whether it is passed or failed. If there is a verification point, whether it is done the verification correctly, whether the verification points are passed or failed. Let's look at some of the key components, and then I will probably bring up that RTW Eclipse Workbench and the my mobile device, and show you how we can actually record a test, playback a test, and show the report. As I said, that there is a test workbench. A test workbench is nothing but an Eclipse client. The test workbench is basically running on your desktop machine. And that is where you author your test, you modify your test, and you initiate the execution of your test. Then you have another piece called the mobile client. The mobile client is a piece of code that is running on your mobile, and that is the agent that will help you in recording your test, execution of your test, as well as uploading the execution result back to the test workbench. So here onwards, test workbench, whenever I refer test workbench, this is that workbench that is running on your desktop, and whenever I refer mobile client, this is that agent that is running on that device. So typically, if you look at the traditional testing, right, you have your desktop, and on which you have your testing tools being installed, and your application also available on the same machine. So everything is on the same machine. You don't need to interact with the different machines that is running the application. In mobile testing, it's slightly different, right? So you have a mobile device, and your application is running on mobile device, and so a mobile device probably will help you in recording your actions, interactions, and playing back. But if you really wanted to do the kind of modifications on your test, or you wanted to author your test without even recording, you need to have you need to have a little more real estate. You need to have the capabilities that will help you that. For that, you probably need a desktop, right? So that is where the test workbench comes into picture. So these are the two entities here, and in the test workbench, you have a test editor. That is where you modify your test or author your test, and the test reports. Test reports are basically at the end of the execution, reports will be available back to the test workbench. Execution happens in the device, and the mobile client on the device pushes back those reports back to the test workbench, so that you can view the test workbench. You can export it and give to anybody who is interested to see those reports. Let's go. Let me show you all these components, and I'm going to bring up Rational Test Workbench. So what currently you see is nothing but Rational Test Workbench. This is that Eclipse client I talked about. And if you look at the Rational Test Workbench client, you have some of the icons you will notice on the top is that one is that what are the applications that are available for you to test. For example, you develop your application on the desktop, right? So you probably use your Eclipse ADT or any other development environment, and you develop your application on your desktop. That means from the workbench, you can actually select the the application that is available or the application that you have created. So for RTW, you don't need any source code. You just need the binary.apk file in the case of Android. You just need to point to that Android, that APK file. So then the next icon that is nothing but display available devices. So let me click on the available devices. Okay. So when I click on the available device, you see all the mobile devices that are connected to the Workbench. So first thing is that for you to record and see the test on your Workbench, the devices and the Workbench should be in sync. That means the Workbench as well as the mobile should be connected to each other. And once the Workbench and the device is connected, you get a list of all the devices available in this view. So for example, I have a Android devices that is being shown here, and this is nothing but a VMware image of an Android device, and I have connected this device to the Workbench. That is why you see that entry here, generic x86 VM, is being connected. So what if you wanted to start afresh? So what basically you do is that you see an icon on the mobile device view that is called Add Device List. I click on the Add Device List. What you basically see is another window which has come up. And if you just focus on the window, it is saying to add a device, you need to provide the Workbench URL in a browser on a browser in your mobile device. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to my device here. I'm going to bring up a browser. And I'm going to point to this URL. .124 dot HTTPS, okay, HTTP. So once I enter that URL, and if you notice that the message is coming, it's saying you can download, or by clicking on that start download, you can download the mobile client. Basically, this is what customer do. Customer brings up their mobile device, they go to the Workbench, they want to add the device to the Workbench. So you go to the device, bring up the browser, enter this URL. So once you enter the URL, you get this option to download the mobile client. You just download and install it. So I'm not doing it right away, but I already have downloaded. And once you download and install, what you get is nothing but, let me close this, go back to the server. So once you install, what you get is nothing but this application that's called IBM Rational Test Workbench mobile client. And once you bring it up, you see that the IBM Rational Test Workbench mobile client is available for. Once you have installed this one, the first thing you need to do is that you configure your Workbench. So for that, you click on the first option that is saying configure your Workbench. Click on that one, and you provide the address that is being shown in your Workbench. The add devices shows the address, Workbench URL. You just need to provide that address. So once I provide the address, the IP address, then the device and the Workbench is connected. So I provide it, and once I provide it, it will actually tell you that your device is connected. So that is how you connect your devices. For you to connect your devices, you don't need to have the physical connection to the device. It is all in the network. As long as your Workbench and device is in the same network, that's enough. Or your Workbench or device should be able to communicate each other. That's it. So once this is done, your device is connected. And now once the device is connected, you can go back to your, before going back to your mobile client, let's see how we can configure your application. So now that you have a device, you have a Workbench, and now you have an application that you wanted to test. So what you do is that you go to the toolbar icon that is saying display available application. When you click on that one, you see that there are some applications already available for you, or maybe I added that one, but you have another application that you wanted to add. What you basically do is that you click on add application list, And here you just need to point to your APK file. As I said, RTW doesn't need a source code of your mobile application. It just needs a binary. So you just need to point to that APK file and press finish. That's it. So I already have added through application. I'm not showing you how we can add another one. So now once you add your application, you can go back to your device and you click on manage your applications. When you manage your application, you click on the manage your application. Whatever application that you configured in your Workbench is now available to the device via this IBM mobile client. So now both device and the Workbench is in sync, and whatever application you configure, you will automatically get it in the client. I'm going to start a recording session. So I'm going to record on a TripAdvisor application. So I'm going to click on TripAdvisor. Once I click on, you see that an overlaid image on the top that is saying, you can record, you can test, and the application is being shown. So I'm going to click on record. So once you click on the record, your application is in a record mode, and you can start recording your actions. So I'm going to TripAdvisor. I'm going to click on the hotel. I would like to order. I'd like to reserve some rooms in the hotel. So I'm going to search now on some hotels. And let me say Taj West End. There's some results which have come. I'm going to click on the one in Bangalore. So whatever I do here, it is actually behind the scene. It is actually recording. I'm interested in showing the price. Probably, I wanted to book the room for, some days from August. I can do, whatever interactions you do here will be recorded behind the scene. So I'm saying show prices. It is searching for the rooms, and probably it will get some results. It is asking whether, okay, I say no thanks. It's saying the hotel is not available, so I can go ahead and look for other hotels, for example, the other one. That's it. I probably just wanted to do this one and probably go back to the main menu. So now once you click on the home, the recording is finished. You notice that in your Workbench now, so now the recording is done on your device. Because the Workbench is connected to the device, you see on the leftmost corner of your Workbench, you see a notification which is saying there is a new incoming recording, and if you wanted to generate the test for that one, click here. So I'm going to click there. Let me minimize this my device for some time. I'm going to do a click on that link here, and I'm going to provide a name for this one. Let's say TripAdvisor search. I'm going to say finish. Now it has generated the test for me. I'm going to say open test. So what you see is nothing but the test being generated. Whatever you interacted in your application in the device during the recording time, those are being captured, and we have generated a test out of that one. And if you look at the test, right, it is very much plain English-like statement. Each step as very clearly defines what exactly that action is supposed to do. For example, the first one was click on button, the no thanks. The first thing it was asked whether you wanted to register or something. I forgot what exactly it was. I clicked on no thanks, and that's being recorded here. If you select each of these, steps, there are details about the control that you interacted on the right side that is being shown in the test element detail. And it actually says what is the graphic object. Basically, it is a button, and what is the action you did, and that is nothing but a click. And it also says about how does that object is being identified. It is by the text. You can actually modify all these ones if you want. For example, the object action is currently click, and sometimes you can replace with the touch, or you can say focus on that one, whatever you like to do. And identification also you can change it. Sometimes many of that application, it is not just text. There is a hint as well as there is a content description. Based on all these properties, I can identify my control. So when we record, we internally determine for each type of control what is the correct identification needed. So based on that one, we generate the test, and our identification logic is depends on the control as well as application. So for the particular step, the way we identified is by the text of the button, because button will have a label, right? The title or text, and that is identification logic for us. And one more thing you can do is that if you look at the object location, sometimes there are objects that doesn't have a clear label or clear way to distinguish from other objects, similar objects in the same page. In that case, you can actually define a context. You can say, find me this OK button that is above some other object or below some other object or near another object, let's say near a link. So those kind of fine tuning we can do for each of the steps. That will help you in identifying the object without ambiguity. If you look at the bottom, you see that for any step that I click on the test, we also capture the screen. It is not just capturing the image of that application. We also capture quite a lot of information about that object. You can also see some of the properties being captured. We also take the properties of the controls, and you can right click on the properties, and you can actually create a verification point out of that. Similarly, from the image itself, I can select the image, and I can offline edit my test, or I can insert a step that does a specific action. For example, I can create a verification point offline. Once the test is being done, once the test is being generated, I can go to the screen capture image. I can, for example, I want to insert a verification point for the type of that control or value of the control. I can do that one. Let's see how the test, how you can play back the test. So what I'll go is that to execute the test, I'll go back to my device. I'm going to bring up my client on the device, mobile client. And so first thing is that you need to do is that either you can execute your test from the device itself, or you can execute your test from the workbenches. So if you are executing from the workbench, you need to switch this switch to active mode, that you need to toggle it, because now you're saying the workbench will actually run the test from the workbench basically, instead of running the test from the device itself. That means when you record, you have an option whether you can initiate the execution from the device or from the workbench. Typically what customer does is that they create the test and modify it, and they typically run the test from the workbench. Let's go to the workbench and try execution of the test and see if it is executing. So first thing it will do is that it will generate the test, and now you'll see that the test will be started execution on the device. Let me bring up the device and show you. While it is executing on the device, and we also give a live update of that each step execution result. So the step which is executing, we will also give what is the step which is executed, and also the image of that screen. And now it is executing the step, and it is entering whatever the details that we entered during the recording time. It's going to search for that hotel. And also while we enter, while it is playing back on these controls, it will also highlight the controls that will give us an indication on whether it is interacting with the correct control. So it has found that Taj Western and it's trying to reserve some rooms. And you'll also notice that on the workbench that report is being appended for each of the steps that is being executed. It's going to select that the dates, and now it's going to click on show prices. Now it is going to select a number of people, guests. And it's going to click on the show prices and going to select another hotel and come back. At the end of the execution, the report will give you the complete verdict of those tests, whether it is a passed or failed. It also gives you a think time that will show you for it to find the control and perform the action, how much time it waited. So this application, remember when I recorded the TripAdvisor asking whether I want to remember, I said no. TripAdvisor, the next time it won't ask because it registers, that's why it is not able to find that no time which I entered. But it will still continue with the next step, and the execution is done. And if you look at your test, now the execution is done and you have the report, and you see the execution result. It is saying the execution status was error, and you can go to the what is the step which actually caused this error, and if you click on go to, it is saying it was looking for no thanks because the first time when you interact with the application, the TripAdvisor was asking whether do you wanted to remember or something. I said no, so next time onwards it won't ask. So in this case, what you typically can do is that you can just disable that step. So this way it will give you, if you look at the execution result, it will tell you what are the steps being executed and how much the think time to find the object. It will also give you a snapshot of each of the control that it interacted during the playback. This can be exported and given to anybody who is interested. This is about the report. So we have seen how you can record a test, how you can modify your test. You have seen already the things capture and as well as how you can actually offline edit. You have executed your test, and you have seen the report being generated. With the test, what you can do is you can do a lot more. For example, you can actually data drive your test. So in case instead of Taj Western, you wanted to drive your test against an external data source. For example, you have 100 other hotels and you wanted to drive your test against those hotels. You can actually data drive. That means the data will come from an external source. We call it a data pool. That is available today. You can, so as I said earlier, from the snapshot, you can insert a verification point. For example, I can say verify the value, create a verification point for the value, and it will execute that verification point. So it actually says, if you look at the steps, verify that value equals to whatever the value I provided. You can also see that element details. It will give you the object hierarchy of each of the elements in that application. That way you can really map the hierarchy, and you can even see the controls behind the scene. So as I said, you can do a kind of error handling also. You can, a few error handling for each of the steps. There are options for inserting from the test itself. For example, if you want to insert your own actions, you can do from the test. You can remove, you can, disable, and all other things you can do from the test. Let me go back to the slide and how to cover a little more. So I covered the mobile client. I showed you how you can record a test, you can execute a test. I talked about screen capture and the natural language test scripts. That is very easy to understand. We also provide the data pooling I talked about. Also, you can create a reference. You can create a data correlation. That means you can create a reference, and that reference can be used anywhere in the test. We talked about the mobile test reports. I don't want to go deep into this one again. The one thing I wanted to focus here is that RTW has integration with the Rational Quality Manager. That's the first slide I showed you. That means you should be able to execute your RTW test, mobile test from RQM. So the test which I created, I can actually connect to a test case in RQM, and I can execute that test case from RQM. So that once the execution is done from RQM, all those test logs or reports are available to the RQM. So anybody, any team member, right, you can go and check for these test cases, how many times that execution is run, and for each of this execution, what was that result. I talked about the keyword. Keywords are available in RQM, and in RQM you can create a keyword, and the keyword can be used in RQM manual test, and those keywords you can automate using a mobile test. So in Rational Test Workbench, if you look at a view that is on the rightmost side, it says a keyword view, and basically what you basically do is that you connect to an RQM, and once you connect to the RQM, you get all the keywords that are available in RQM, and then you can actually right-click and right-click on the keywords and say automate the keywords within mobile test. We have a session that is coming up probably in another 1 month from Rational itself for keywords as well as test modularization using keywords. I think if you attend that session, you will get more information about the keywords. So I'm not going deep into keywords, but I just want to mention that you can automate a keyword using RTW. The virtualization, I touched upon virtualization earlier. Basically, if you look at when you develop your software or your application, you may not have all the services for you to do a complete integration testing. In that case, the Rational virtualization solution provides you the way to virtualize some of the services so that you can start with your testing in the early phase of the development. So that's what the virtualization helps you. We also have a integration tester. Once you are virtualized, you can do a kind of integration tester or service testing. Basically, you wanted to test all those messages or services or all those flows that is happening behind the scene, not just the UI. So for that, you can use integration tester. We also have a session coming up maybe in the next 2 or 3 weeks about service virtualization and integration tester. You can attend that session for more details on that one. I talked about the complete application lifecycle management. This gives you a little more idea about the different interactions as well as collaboration between the different tools for the collaborative application lifecycle management. If you wanted to know more about the ALM story, you can just visit jazz.net. If you don't remember anything in the session, just remember jazz.net. Just remember jazz.net and go to bring up your browser and type jazz.net. Whatever I talked about, you will be available in jazz.net. There's a lot of publications, a lot of articles around RQM and RTW and mobile testing. Everything you can get from jazz.net. RTW is also part of IBM Mobile First platforms, and I talked about Worklight Application Center as well as Application Studio. The Worklight is, you can use the Worklight to build your application quickly, and we have an integration of RTW in our Worklight so that when you develop your application itself, you can actually test your application using RTW mobile capabilities. That's about the mobile first platforms and integrations of RTW with the mobile first platforms. If you wanted to know more about that, there's quite a lot of videos available in in YouTube about all the things which I showed, and more than that, it also talks about how you can virtualize your services, And you can also, there is also a video about how we can use a rational quality manager along with RTW test. These are the links which are shown. You can directly go to YouTube and look at the videos, and you can play around with this one. There are some links that will help you to understand, get more details about JAS.NET and Rational Test Workbench for mobile, application capabilities. All that is available. Okay, the floor is open for questions now. Okay, so there are many questions. Let me read one by one. So the first question is, what are the prerequisites for the single development platform for all mobiles, Android, iOS? So they're saying, what is that prerequisite for single development platform, right? So this is in the context of Worklight, I feel what you're saying. So Worklight is a development platform where you can develop all your different types of, I would say, different types of application. When I say different types, it is a hybrid or native or those kind of application. The Worklight application, you just create an application, and now you say that this application needs to be run on iOS or Android, and it will actually create the binaries for that particular device. So the next question is, can this product be used for testing Windows 8 Metro app? So RTW, as I said earlier, RTW is nothing but a packaging, and in that package there is a rational functional tester that is typically used for testing your desktop-based application as well as browser application. And if you are specifically asking for Windows 8 Metro apps, we don't support the testing of Metro app, but we support the traditional all other applications, not the Metro style. You can test your .NET, Silverlight, you can, Windows standard applications, Flex applications, Chrome, whatever not, all those based applications. You can test using RFT that is bundled with RTW. The third question is RTW support automation of web application website? As I said, RTW is bundled with RFT, Rational Functional Tester. You can use a Rational Functional Tester for testing your web applications. And also I talked about RTW also has integration with Selenium, and you can use also Selenium for testing your web applications in case you are a user of Selenium, and RTW has integration with Selenium too. The next question is RTW is paid? Yes, of course. IBM makes money from selling quite a lot of tools like that. Yes, RTW is paid. And this, because I said RTW gives you different other capabilities. When you buy RTW, you get a bunch of other capabilities. Functional testing, performance testing, mobile testing, lot more. The other question is, how can we install the mobile client in Android and iOS device? How does the approach to performance load testing extranet mobile application change from the testing of RIA, rich client application? Okay. So the installing the mobile, I showed you how you can install the mobile client in your device. You just go to the device, you bring up your browser, any browser that native browser that is available. You just point to the URL that I showed from your Workbench. From the Workbench, when you click on Add Devices, it gives your Workbench URL. You just point to that Workbench URL in the browser in your device. So it will give you a pointer to download the mobile client. You just download and install it. That's it. That's how you can install your mobile client on the devices. So performance test and load testing. we currently, so the performance test and load testing, what I talked about, is part of Rational Performance Tester, that is called RPT. You can create a performance. So basically, your performance test is basically you have a server and you wanted to, test probably 10,000 users at the same time, bombarding your server, right? So it is not anything specific to mobile as such. It is basically a testing your servers for a load. That is provided by Rational Performance Tester, that is part of RTW. So as you said, we can see the available devices if device is connected to the Workbench. So how can we connect a mobile device to Workbench through USB or Wi-Fi? To connect the device to the Workbench, you can just use Wi-Fi. It is just it is just that both device and your mobile client needs to be in the same network or to be accessible. It's a Wi-Fi or anything, it doesn't matter. What kind of instrumentation of the app is required for iOS and Android? For Android, both of them I said we don't need a source code. We actually do a runtime instrumentation for record and playback. So that's the instrumentation technology we use. We just need a binary, and you don't need a source code. Basically, we have our own technology to instrument the code and listen to the events. Can we execute a single script on multiple devices at the same time? Answer is yes and no. And if you're using the Workbench, you can, and let's assume you have a Workbench and you have a 10 device connected at the same time and you are executing a test, it will execute only on the first available device. But if you are using an RQM, and from RQM you can at the same time execute your test on multiple devices. But from the Workbench, it is not possible. Does this tool allow me to test install and installation process? Of course, yes. If your install and installation process has some kind of UI and you are interacting with the UI, yes, it is. It's obviously, and either it can be native application or hybrid applications. Can we convert? I'm working as a test architect for mobility. Could you please share the slides and any other relevant doc at the end of the webinar? I need to check with the moderator of this and see how I can share. Obviously, yes, I can share if that is possible. Yes. Can we convert the code to JavaScript or any other language? At this point of time, no. You cannot convert this code to a JavaScript. It is the script whatever is shown is nothing but an English-like statements, and that's what we use for playback also. We don't convert that to a JavaScript. How can RTW be used for creative testing of native application? Let's say verifying the style guide, specification, etc., font and the color, and okay. I showed you a properties view. The properties view captures all internal properties of that control, whether it is a font or size or other properties like name, value, all the things. Yes, you can test. You can insert a verification point for that particular attribute. Yes, that's the way you can test it. How you will handle custom components like hybrid applications? I didn't fully understood that question. Probably I'll take it up later. And is this okay? Is this a script? Question. Okay, I don't know what is that question here. What is the change required in order to perform this test on iOS devices? So, if it's a native, it's a completely two different types of test, iOS as well as Android, right? Because the application itself is different, the controls, native controls are different, so you cannot actually play back the same test on Android as well as iOS. The cross playback is not existing today. Does this use OCR technologies? No, we don't use OCR technologies. We use information about the object itself, because OCR technologies we can't really rely on because there are challenges with OCR. We don't go with OCR as well as image. I want to explore this tool. Can you help me to download the trial versions of the software is available? You just need to Google search, and there are sites, our own sites, which talks about how we can use the trial version. You can go to jazz.net, and you should provide some links for this one. Can we use VB script, and which is the stable QTB or rational test, which is okay? So we can't use UV script, and you're asking whether QTB or rational tools stable. I don't think I am the right person to give the comparison here. I think whoever used both of the tools probably the best guys to judge that. What are the platform of device we can cover, like iOS, Android? Currently, we have only iOS and Android at this point of time. This is a version 1 of product at this point of time. We don't have other platforms support. Simulators in Windows, which is compatible only with Mac. How can I test mouse pointers action like paint kind of apps? So anything you do, clicks or whatever, is basically it will be clicking on that object. So probably you are looking at the correct, probably the coordinates. You probably want to click on the exact coordinate, XY coordinate. So as of today, it is basically the clicks at the object. It will actually get the object midpoint and click. It's a good suggestion. I will take as one of the requirements and probably add to the priorities. What is the cost of RTW license? Sorry, I can't. I can tell that in this forum. Probably you can reach out to the sales from IBM support. What is the prerequisite to work with this one? Prerequisite is nothing but you just need to install RTW. That's only the prerequisite. Can we make this RTW data driven? Yes, we can. Data driven is supported. Is the mobile client is in physical device or simulator? It is actually, so if you have physical device, yes, mobile client is on the physical device. Is it emulator? Yes, it is. It's actually on the device. Yes. In the report found it is using recorded think time. Can this be varied? Yes, it can be varied because it depends on the network speed. If the network is taking much time, yes, think time also will take time to refresh. It's all the runtime. When you execute, how much time it took to find that control and do the action is the think time. So it can vary across different instances as well as different time. Using emulator, how accurately can we test? Yes, whatever I showed today is on a kind of emulator. If you look at it, it's a VMware, but the emulator also, yes, it is little slow, but yes, you don't miss anything. Can we use this RTW for UI testing as we did for mobile, record and play? RTW, as I said, has an RFT also included in RTW. You should use RTW for the UI testing. Can we simulate test script for multi-user load? The mobile test, as of today, you don't have the load testing capabilities. For that, basically what you need to do is that you need to use RPT, and in RPT you can actually use the mobile test for the load testing. Can we use the IPA file for iOS? Yes, you can use that. As I said, it all works on binary. Can we integrate RTW with Android SDK integrated Eclipse? Yes, I hope you are talking about ADT. Yes. You said that no need to connect mobile device physically. If so, how can we test the UI part? When I said physically, basically the device as well as the workbench is connected over Wi-Fi. That's all what I was mentioning here. Basically, it is connected, though it is not wired. Can we consider as keyword-driven framework used in RTW? The keyword-driven framework is used in RTM. RTW just automate the keyword. That's all. RTW will support for which language? RTW supports quite a lot of standard locales, almost 11 of them. So the test that is being recorded in one locale can be played back because it supports quite a lot of international locales. Whether it supports cross-browser testing, recording an application in one browser and running on the same in a different application. We don't currently have a support for browser-based application for mobile. We only support hybrid. As you mentioned, Selenium means only Java. Can we use VB script? It's only Java scripting as of today. How about testing UI responsiveness? Does RTW provide any help? I hope you are talking about probably the device performance. As of today, we don't have device performance, but at least the think time can help you how much time it took for finding the object and do performance actions. Can we convert the simple English to a scripting language to any other scripting language? Does the tool generate any other? No, we only support the scripting language. Can we generate XSLT report? Not at this point of time, but so you can actually one thing is that other than the HTML report that I showed, there is an option you can there's a in the Test Explorer there is a results, and other results you can right click and say generate your functional test report. Yes. Can RFT be used for native app test? RFT doesn't support testing mobile application. It is only for native apps on the desktop. Can we get the emulator for all types of device like Android? I hope you are asking, can we test? Yes, we can test. So that's it. Thank you all very much for attending this session. And if you need more information, I suggest you to go through some of the resources that are available on JAS.net, or just search for RTW. You would get quite a lot of links to understand more on this one.
Well, thank you so much, Sinoj, for answering all those questions. Thanks for the great presentation as well. It was an insightful webinar. I would also like to thank all our participants for their support in making this webinar a success. The recording of the session would be available on techgig.com by evening. Thank you all. Have a great day.